The Dallas Cowboys just made one of the boldest moves we've seen in years, landing Quinnen Williams in a blockbuster trade that could reshape the future of their defense. This isn't just about the 2025 season. This is about 2026, 2027, and the seasons beyond, the kind of long-term vision that separates contenders from pretenders. You can feel the energy shift in Dallas. Dak Prescott reportedly told reporters he's absolutely pumped, and you can tell this team feels it. The Cowboys' locker room has a completely different vibe compared to teams like the Jets or Colts, two franchises still trying to figure out their identity. Dallas, on the other hand, just made a move that screams we're serious about winning. Before we go any deeper, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. And of course, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update on the NFL's biggest moves. Now, back to the trade itself. This deal isn't just a reaction. It's a statement. For years, the Cowboys have hovered between rebuilding and contending, never fully committing to one direction. But by going after Quinnen Williams, they're finally making a decision, to win now, while Dak Prescott is still in his prime. And yes, we've all heard the comparisons to the Micah Parsons trade. But here's the truth, that chapter is closed. It's done. There's no point in living in the shadow of that move forever. Great teams don't dwell on what's gone. They adapt. They evolve. They move forward. Dallas finally did just that. Instead of waiting, instead of hoping things magically improve, they acted. They went out and got a generational defensive talent they've been chasing for years. The Cowboys reportedly tried to trade for Quinnen back when they still had Parsons, but the Jets said no. Now, they finally got their guy, and it could change everything for this defense. By adding Quinnen Williams, the Cowboys didn't just fill a roster spot, they brought in a gravity player. No, it's not the same kind of pressure magnet that Micah Parsons was, but Williams brings a force of his own. He's the kind of player that demands attention, that offensive coordinators lose sleep over. Every week, opposing teams will now have to sit down and ask one simple question: how do we stop Quinnen Williams? That's the level of respect he commands, the kind of presence this defense has been missing since Parsons' departure. When you have a player like that, it doesn't just change one position, it changes the entire game plan for your opponent. According to Next Gen Stats, Quinnen Williams has beaten 57 double teams to create pressure since 2022, the most by any player in the league during that stretch. Let that sink in. That's pure dominance. And here's the kicker. A big chunk of that success came while working with Aaron White-Cotton, his former defensive line coach in New York, who now holds the same position in Dallas. That reunion alone could unlock another level of production. In that same time span, Williams has also racked up 190 total pressures, ranking fourth among all defensive tackles. The only names above him? Legends like Chris Jones and DeForest Buckner. And here's a fun detail. The second highest number of double-team pressures during that period belongs to none other than Osa Odighizuwa, another Cowboy. Imagine those two lined up together. That's not just strength, that's chaos for any offensive line that tries to stand in their way. This move doesn't just help the Cowboys in 2025, it's an investment in 2026 and beyond. The best part? Dallas managed to pull this off without giving up their first-round pick. That's huge. Honestly, this trade feels like one of those rare win-now and win-later moves. Williams reportedly requested a trade quietly from the Jets, something they managed to keep under wraps. Now that he's landed in Dallas, everything changes, for him, for the team, and for the entire NFC landscape. So what do you think? How would you grade the Cowboys' trade for Quinnen Williams, A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know in the comments below. From a schematic perspective, expect some visible adjustments. The Cowboys are likely to roll out more five-man fronts, something they experimented with earlier in the season against the Cardinals, and it worked. Coordinator Brian Schottenheimer has already said those looks are here to stay, especially on early downs. That setup should help unleash Williams' power while freeing up other playmakers to attack. When the Cowboys faced the Arizona Cardinals, they got a real test of their new defensive structure. Arizona loves to run heavy personnel, we're talking extra tight ends and even additional offensive linemen stacked at the line of scrimmage. But Dallas responded with power. On one early down play, the Cowboys lined up with Solomon Thomas, Kenny Clark, Osa Odighizuwa, Jadeveon Clowney, and Ezeraku anchoring the edges. That formation screamed run defense, and it worked. The Cardinals managed just 2 yards on the play. Another snap showed a similar approach but loaded to one side, 2 tight ends and an extra lineman to the left. This time, Ezeraku and Clowney both had their hands in the dirt. The Cowboys' front shifted seamlessly between 3-man and 5-man looks, depending on the offensive setup. Here's the beauty of this new defense: it's unpredictable. On paper, it might look like a 3-4 front. The next play, it's suddenly a 5-man front. Then they'll morph into something resembling a 4-3. It doesn't really matter what you call it, what matters is that opposing offenses can't get a read on it. Dallas has found a way to mix power and speed across the line. We've even seen situations where 3 defensive ends, like Sam Williams, Marshawn Kneeland, and Clowney, are on the field together, alongside 2 interior linemen. That blend of size and burst creates havoc, especially against teams like Arizona that rely heavily on jumbo packages. Expect to see more of these looks as the season goes on, particularly on early downs, with Osa Odighizuwa, Kenny Clark, and Quinnen Williams lining up together. You can call it a 3-4 or a 5-man front, the terminology doesn't matter. What matters is the disruption. One player who's about to benefit the most? Ezeraku. His growth has been one of the most promising storylines this year. Even though he's only recorded 2 sacks so far, his impact is much bigger than the stats show. Over the past 4 games, his pressure rate has climbed above 16%, which is elite. And now, with Quinnen Williams demanding double teams and collapsing pockets from the inside, Ezeraku's opportunities are only going to increase. Expect him to keep trending upward as the Cowboys' defense evolves into one of the most dangerous fronts in the NFL. At the Cowboys facility, Osa Odighizuwa spoke to the media and shared his excitement about the team's evolving defensive looks, especially the 5-man fronts. He said he hopes the defense keeps using more of them, because when the line has only 4 down players, double teams are constant. But when you roll out 5, the math changes, blockers have to go one-on-one more often, and that creates massive opportunities for defenders to make plays. Having Quinnen Williams added to that mix gives Dallas a whole new level of flexibility. When you can line up 5 powerful linemen across the front, it's a nightmare for offensive coordinators trying to figure out protection schemes. Of course, the Cowboys won't use that setup every play. On obvious passing downs, say, 3rd and long, expect more nickel packages, extra defensive backs, and lighter fronts designed to handle speed and coverage. Still, even in those situations, defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer can get creative. We could see players like DeMarvion Overshown rolled down closer to the line to disguise blitzes or fill gaps, keeping offenses guessing every snap. Odighizuwa is also coming off one of his best games of the year, explosive off the snap, consistent with his hand usage, and dominant in interior pressure. He's hitting his stride at exactly the right time. There's also talk among defensive analysts about incorporating what's called a G-front, a concept borrowed from the Carolina Panthers under Matt Rule. It's particularly effective against 11 personnel looks, formations with 3 receivers but still a threat to run. On early downs like 1st and 10, this alignment could be a perfect answer. For example, Tershawn Wharton, a player around 6 feet 2 inches and 280 pounds, often lined up head-on with the tight end in Carolina's G-front scheme. That's not too different from how Odighizuwa could be deployed in Dallas, quick enough to beat a block, strong enough to control the edge. If the Cowboys mix in that kind of structure with their 5-man fronts, this defense could become even more unpredictable, able to stop the run with brute force and still explode off the line in passing downs. It's exactly the kind of balance championship teams are built on. In certain defensive looks, the Cowboys could get even more creative. Imagine a lineup featuring Derek Brown, Aiden Robinson, and Nick Scourton spread out wide, with Ezeraku flexed across formations to exploit matchups. That kind of flexibility could be dangerous, especially on early downs when teams are still trying to establish the run. Dallas has also experimented with big nickel packages, bringing an extra safety down into the box to act as a hybrid linebacker. It's a bold look that can confuse offenses, part coverage, part pressure, and entirely unpredictable. While it's unlikely to become their every down setup, it's another weapon the Cowboys can pull from their defensive arsenal when the situation calls for it. With the additions of Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, this defense suddenly feels deeper, faster, and far more balanced. So let's talk power rankings, Madden style. If you had to rate the Cowboys' defense right now on a 1 to 99 scale, where would you put them? They may not be a 99 overall yet, but they're getting closer than they've been in years. One player who stands to gain the most from all of this is Osa Odighizuwa. He's been solid all season, but with Quinnen Williams commanding double teams, Osa should finally get the one-on-one matchups that allow him to shine. He's not necessarily the kind of player who wrecks games by himself, but as part of a stacked defensive front, he can be absolutely lethal. We saw flashes of that dominance against the Arizona Cardinals, where Osa was relentless, quick off the line, disruptive in the backfield, and a constant problem for blockers. With more favorable matchups ahead, expect that version of him to become the norm. Now, looking long-term, the Cowboys will eventually have some tough financial decisions to make. Paying Osa Odighizuwa, Quinnen Williams, and Kenny Clark top-tier money simultaneously isn't sustainable. That trio would combine for over $60 million against the cap next year, far too steep for three interior defenders who won't always be on the field together in passing situations. But that's a conversation for the future. Right now, Dallas is focused on results. Odighizuwa's numbers already tell the story: 25 total pressures this season, among the best on the team, with elite pass rush win rates to back it up. The sacks will come, and when they do, this defensive line could be the most complete unit the Cowboys have had in over a decade. And while his cap hit for next season sits at a hefty $20.75 million, the front office never planned to leave it that way. Restructuring is all but guaranteed. For now, what matters most is that this defense has the talent, depth, and firepower to go toe-to-toe with anyone in the league. Now, when you look at Osa Odighizuwa's contract situation, it's actually set up in a way that gives the Cowboys some flexibility. His cap hit for next year sits at about $20.75 million, but they can easily restructure it and save around $12 million against the cap. If Dallas decided to trade him, the savings would only be around $4.75 million, which isn't much. And cutting him before June 1st would actually cost them about $12 million in dead money, so that's not really an option either. A post-June 1st cut doesn't save you anything significant, so realistically, he's not going anywhere. Bottom line, with the way this deal is structured, I'd lean toward Osa being back with the Cowboys in 2026. Now, quick reminder, we'll be live again on Thursday to break down all the latest Cowboys news. We'll also take a deeper dive into how these recent moves affect the team's salary cap and long-term roster plans, so make sure you're subscribed and tuned in for that. Let's move over to Kenny Clark, who's been a bit up and down this season. After his stint with the Packers, he's put up 4 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks, along with a solid number of pressures. The Cowboys have actually used him more often than Osa in certain looks, treating him as the primary interior disruptor. But here's the issue: that contract. He's carrying a $21.5 million cap hit next year, and there's an $11 million roster bonus due just a few days into the 2026 league year. No more guaranteed money left, but still, something has to give. You could restructure and save about $9.6 million, but that's a short-term fix. So here's the question for Cowboys fans: if you could only keep one of these guys, who would it be? Type O for Osa Odighizuwa or KC for Kenny Clark down in the comments. One last note before we wrap this part: the Motzi Smith trade. Credit to the Cowboys for admitting they messed up there. Between the constant changes in his role, the weight swings, and his own inconsistency, things just never worked out. Moving him and saving a bit of cap space was honestly the right move. Alright, let's talk about Logan Wilson. Now, he's not going to have the same impact as a Quinn Williams or Kenny Clark, but considering he just went from the worst defense in football to the second worst, he's definitely in a better spot. And look, even though the Bengals benched him, I actually think that was a mistake. I've watched Barrett Carter and Demetrius play. They've been rough. Wilson brings experience, instincts, and toughness, and you could easily argue he's now the Cowboys' best healthy linebacker. The bar's low right now, sure, but still, he's a clear upgrade for this defense. Now, Brian Schottenheimer says Logan Wilson is going to line up at middle linebacker for the Cowboys, which means he's set to compete directly with Kenneth Murray for that starting spot. They'll keep Shamar James working that weak side role, and once DeMarvion Overshown returns, he'll rotate in there as well. The big question is, how quickly can Logan Wilson pick up this defense? He's known for his football IQ, so can he get up to speed fast enough to wear the green dot helmet and take over play-calling duties? That might be exactly what the Cowboys are hoping he can handle during the bye week install. Now, maybe he won't play every single snap right away, but honestly, I just want to see him out there. Because at this point, I can't handle watching Kenneth Murray anymore. So, Cowboys Nation, pick your linebacker. Type KM for Kenneth Murray or LW for Logan Wilson down in the comments. I'm going LW all the way, because my mental health is worth the 7th round pick it took to not have Kenneth Murray on the field anymore. And look, I know Schottenheimer said Kenneth Murray had one of his best games of the season against the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. That might be true, but let's be real, it still wasn't good. That kind of tells you everything you need to know. Yeah, he had that nice sack earlier this year, maybe looked okay in the Giants game, outside of getting burned on that cover 2-hole shot, but overall, I've just been unimpressed. Now, to be fair, Logan Wilson isn't a perfect player either. He's not elite in coverage, he can get picked on at times, but he makes plays. He breaks up passes, he diagnoses quickly, and you actually notice him out there. And for anyone worried about him being benched in Cincinnati, that was a mistake. He wasn't the issue. The Bengals' locker room vibes are bad right now, and I think Wilson's going to be a lot happier in Dallas, where he'll get a real shot to lead this defense.